So the new chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen is officially here, and we just got a lot of lore behind Sukuna, and I think this fight between Yorozu and Sukuna could potentially lead us finally into that juicy Heian Era flashback that we've all been craving so very badly. But you know what else is craving something? That subscribe button for you to click it. You should probably get on that. But this chapter opens up where it left off from Sukuna and Yorozu facing off in the stadium, with Yorozu saying that Sukuna, from the looks of things, you have a serious advantage over that incarnated body, and I bet you could switch that face back whenever you wanted, which I think is a reference to Sukuna's original body, which we've seen a glimpse of a few times, that form with this 4 arms and 2 faces. And I mentioned it in my last review here, I'm a firm believer that Sukuna can go back to that form whenever or wherever he pleases, DBC style transformation. I don't think he needs the other 5 fingers to go back to that form whenever he wants. We already saw a glimpse of him switching when he transformed and ripped Angel's arm off a couple of chapters ago, should I say. And also Kenjaku and Yorozu have now also mentioned that he can switch his face back, or if he was going to switch his face back. So I do think he can transform at will, and we will probably see that if someone pushes him like far enough within a fight. Honestly, this chapter is actually filled to the brim with Sukuna lore teasers, and I'm all for it. Sukuna goes on to mention how the same could be said for Yorozu, and I can only assume that if you're powerful enough, you can manipulate your vessel back to potentially your original form. I'd be willing to bet that this has something to do with the soul, and I do have a video cooking coming out on that soon. I think we'll see aspects of the soul in Jujutsu Kaisen playing a very big role in the future very soon, but I want to get into that in a separate video. But Yorozu and Sukuna carry on talking, with Sukuna saying to Yorozu, "You can't possibly think that you're going to survive this, right?" And the two start fighting right away, and I want to point out how different Sukuna is and seems with this interaction. He seems playful almost. He doesn't seem his usual evil incarnate self while interacting with Yorozu. The way these two interact reminds me of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, if you've ever seen that film. It's like this weird love-hate relationship, but it's a relationship nonetheless. Yorozu goes on to say how Angel was there, and I'm assuming she means like on the rooftop. Yorozu goes on to say how Angel was there, but she didn't notice your presence. But Yorozu knew straight away that Sukuna was there, and she goes on to say how she noticed his presence because of love. And even though there's no answers that have been given in this chapter here, we are definitely starting to scratch the surface of the mystery behind Sukuna and the Heian Era here. We are getting little bits, and this chapter will be a big one that people can probably look back to, or the next couple of chapters will probably look back to for answers. And Yorozu goes on to say how the percepts and the hatred that was born from them could never surpass the power of love. And I am assuming that she's referring to Angel and Angel's quote-unquote religion that she also referenced a little while back. That's what I'm assuming with on this little statement here. But this is where we see even further into the depths of Sukuna and Yorozu's relationship. Yorozu goes on to say how if Sukuna is defeated by her and he manages to survive, what will Sukuna give her? And Sukuna replies with everything. And maybe I'm reaching here, but this talk of love and giving something everything reminds me a lot of Yuta and Rika. And I wonder if there's some sort of connection there, maybe in these lines and the way that they're typed out and the way that's spelled out. Maybe I'm reaching there. But Sukuna then goes on to say how it's unthinkable that he'd lose, but if he does, defeat is no different from death. And Yorozu, now being all coy and shy, asks about marriage, and Sukuna replies with "do as you like." And the way that these two interact is really wild. Like we see a side of Sukuna here in this chapter that we've genuinely never seen before, and I almost want to say it's a softer side, which, as the words come out of my mouth, sounds literally insane, because soon Sukuna and being soft just don't go hand in hand whatsoever. And Yorozu hears this and takes it as an agreement, goes into a frenzy, saying how they'll destroy 3 villages at least for their wedding, and start planning the events of the wedding reception, which include decapitating the most handsome men in the village and hanging their heads and writing haikus as their heads shrivel up. Yeah, very normal stuff here, standard stuff for a wedding, obviously. But then I do want to point out here that there is 3 heads hanging up in this little tree flashback thing that's going on here, and this could be a nod maybe to Yuji, Yuta, and Gojo. They're the 3 people who I think of who could potentially have the potential to fight with Sukuna, maybe even defeat him, and it could be a reach. much on this one, but I feel as if having those 3 heads being there is definitely a red herring for sure for something. Maybe for 3 potential deaths in the series. We don't know, but that's just me crackpot crazy theory, but I feel like it's definitely an intentional detail for sure. But we also find out that Urumi is also a reincarnated sorcerer, and obviously we knew that Urumi was from the Heian Era, but now we have official confirmation that they've actually taken over a body. It seems as if Urumi has been body hopping in a similar way to Kenjaku, and this isn't confirmed by anyone. This is definitely something that I'm thinking of right now, but it is actually insane to think about, and I don't think a lot of people have thought about it, myself included here, because I don't think I've ever seen many people mention how Urumi has actually managed to stay alive for this long. But now that Yorozu has said that has Urumi reincarnated, then that must mean that they have been swapping bodies around the same way Kenjaku has been doing it. Maybe not the same way, but maybe in a similar way to Sukuna. We don't know, but it was an interesting piece of detail right there. We also get to find out that Urumi was and is Sukuna's chef officially. We did have Gege tell us this during an interview once, but now we have it confirmed within the manga. And we also learned that monkey brain pottage is either Sukuna or Yorozu's favorite food. This again could also be a red herring for something, not quite sure yet, but monkey pottage just kind of reminds me of Kenjaku. Kenjaku constantly referring to people as monkeys, or Geto was constantly referring to monkeys. Kenjaku missing the top of a head. I don't know. Maybe again I'm reaching crazy crackpot theory, but that's what I'm here for, you know what I'm saying? But there's then one more detail that may confuse people, and it has definitely confused me. Yorozu and Sukuna seemingly snuggled up in this panel, and I can't tell if it's actually happening or if it's all inside of her head, because the look on Sukuna's face makes me think it's real because he looks disgusted, and if she was imagining this happy reality, maybe Sukuna would actually crack a smile in this one, but Sukuna looks disgusted. And I also feel as if Sukuna wouldn't just let Yorozu get this close, especially when she is actively trying to kill him. And also we also don't know the full relationship between these two, and he does seem a lot softer in this chapter than normal. So I'll let you guys try and figure that one out in the comments down below, because this one does have my head, my little tiny brain confused a little bit. But right after this, Sukuna summons his version of divine dogs. He summons multiple of them, in fact, and they've taken on a liquidy form as well. And then he also has one that appears from his cloak, his cape basically. And then that one that appears from his cloak is one burly boy. This motherfucker looks like a fusion between a gorilla and a bulldog, and it is one monstrous boy. But Yorozu ends up easily avoiding those attacks and launches a counterattack of her own. Again, Sukuna also easily just avoids this, and I would genuinely say in this fight right now, it's possibly the most even footing for a fight that we've seen Sukuna get involved in so far. I do think Yorozu is a lot stronger than what we realize, and I will get to dive into that in a little second here. But Yorozu suddenly stops her attacks and asks Sukuna if the technique he just used was his or the vessel's technique, and why isn't he using the malevolent shrine instead, to which Sukuna says he won't use it. And he goes on to state how in order for him to completely sink Megumi's soul, he needs to crush Shimiki Fushiguro's body with the 10 Shadows technique to carve the scar into Megumi's soul that he killed his own sister, and he won't have the will to live on after that. And I'm going to provide some copium right now for the Megumi fans out there. This plan that Sukuna has could 100% backfire and see Megumi's soul do the exact opposite of giving up. It could see Megumi's soul surge right back to the surface and take control, maybe not permanently, but maybe enough to make Sukuna think twice about the body he's took over being such a pushover. Maybe. But then Yorozu loses her temper and goes on to say how Sukuna shouldn't mess with her, and how can he not touch his future wife with somebody else's technique and not his own, and then goes on to scream about how this isn't her kind of fetish. There is honestly, these two are genuinely perfect for each other, because these two are both 7 levels of batshit crazy, like truly weird individuals. But then Yorozu goes on to say, how can Sukuna expect to beat her without using the malevolent shrine? And this is where we get details of Yorozu's cursed technique. Turns out her technique is a construction technique, and it's as similar or possibly the same as Mai's. And Yorozu has acquired a liquid metal that maintains its physical properties while freely able to change the volume through semi-automatic cursed energy control. And also the armor of flesh is inspired by a variety of borrowings from multiple strands of evolution, which essentially transforms her into some massive mutant gorilla wasp motherfucker. Yorozu is way stronger than what we realize, and like, it doesn't even stop there. Sukuna sees this transformation and then decides to use the Mahoraga. Like, while he sees this opportunity and thinks it's right for a test drive, which again, going back to my point, I think Yorozu is a lot stronger than we realize due to Sukuna seeing this and thinking, better test out the Mahoraga against her. Again, Sukuna, I need to nail this point home. He wants to test drive the Mahoraga against Yorozu, not test Yorozu against the Mahoraga. He wants to test the Mahoraga against Yorozu, which is a wild statement when you really think about it and sink in and dig into it. But I do think we are about to see a banger of a fight in these next couple of chapters for sure, skis. I don't think this is going to be the one-sided stomping that most people seem to think this might be. But overall, this chapter gave us a lot of stuff to dive into and break down, and I'm sure there will be plenty of details that I missed, and you guys can let me know about it all in the comments down below. But that is everything from me. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the channels. That would truly help me out, and we are coming up to 7,000 subscribers, and we could probably hit that off this video, so I would appreciate you subscribing, and that's kind of cool, you know. But that is everything from me. I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, bye bye.